Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Pro Tri News. My voice is a little deeper today because I yelled for 3.5 hours last night as the Oklahoma Sooners took down the Alabama Crimson Tide, number 7 team in the nation, upset, you name it. So I was elated last night, made me realize how much that I love college football, but I also love triathlon. So I'm glad that we're able to get this knocked out. One more podcast before a little bit of a break and give you guys something to listen to for your Thanksgiving travels.
I
Mark,
don't think our listeners will appreciate quite how much that means to you.
uh,
Our group was you rushed the field with a bunch of 18-year-olds, didn't you?
80,000 people in the stadium last night. Rushed the field.
Yeah, that's honestly, those memes, the European mind cannot comprehend.
Yeah.
University level sport in America is something that it's just wild.
It would
Anyway,
be
yes,
the
this is a
equivalent, I guess, of like a Champions League team getting upset by like Leeds Football Club or something.
Yeah,
So
close enough.
that would be the equivalent of what I could describe to the
Yeah, close enough. Yeah, so
other
we're in
fan base.
Australia. And we worked out the other day, we're going to have done maybe 30 flights this year. I think this is the only place I've been to thus far I could live. The riding's all right. The roads are nice. The drivers are a bit rogue. So maybe not for triathlon, but it is really nice here.
Were you guys looking at houses? Was that a joke? Was you guys looking at houses, or is that kind of a joke?
Because it's not like Andorra where you can buy a house, just become a tax haven residence and whatever. You'd have to get immigration and all that. And Australia's strict
Yeah,
for
and
it.
be like
And
a
it was a joke
convict and
anyway.
stuff like that. You got to be like an actual
yeah.
criminal.
You have to get shit. You have to get shipped here from the UK. Yeah. But no, it's real nice. Patrick, how are you healing up?
Week 3 since I broke my scapula, and this morning I woke up and just felt like I'd taken a huge turn for the better. So I'm gonna hop on the trainer tomorrow morning. I was in Maui this week on vacation with my wife. It was awesome, and we're excited to do the show. Obviously, had an amazing race in Cozumel. Wish like heck it could have been broadcast because it would have been. We'll get into it, but
Wild,
it was
yeah.
really, really wild. So these guys that got these early knee slots, on the back, most of them doing Ironman World Championships. The turnaround for that, going and doing another hot one in Cozumel, just blows my mind. So, yeah, super, super excited to talk about it on today's show.
Yeah, 2 questions. First one, did you go to any nice beaches in Maui? Did you?
I went to a couple. You could, if you ever want to go to Maui and you need some recommendations, just please hit me up.
Whether you've got a bathing suit or not, right?
Exactly. You could do. I went to both types. Yep.
I didn't know they had nude beaches even in. I mean, I guess it's not technically America. It's kind of America, but
Yeah, it was awesome. No, it was a great trip.
Um,
Went to
and then
and then drove to the top of Haleakala and did a really cool hike up there above 10,000 feet. So that was another, really cool one.
Nice. And my second question, are we still definitely saying men in Nice next year? Because the rumour mill is alive that the men are in Kona next year.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a huge reversion from the stance, the very clear stance that Ironman has taken that, things will not change for the men. They were even saying plan for the women to be there in 26. They were telling all of their sponsors to be there for the women will be there in 26. That I have a much harder time believing, given, that everyone just knew it wasn't a secret. Like they couldn't sell out the race. They lost money putting the race on. This is it just wasn't. It's not sustainable at that level. We know that next year in Nice, the race organization Ironman will make money. So I think there's been a lot of people asking me about that, and I said, look, I mean, this doesn't need to be a secret. I was asking Lionel about this, and he said, look, he goes, it's kind of interesting. He goes, because if you did change it for 25, he goes, what, 95% of the men's field would be thrilled about that. 5% would be upset about having to not be in Nice. So he's like, who are you really upsetting if you switched it? And I was like,
No. Me. I would have taken my slot.
You would have taken the slot. Yeah. So,
Well,
but as far
we're here in another room. we're hearing another rumor that they are even considering back-to-back Saturdays. So men on one Saturday, women on the other.
Which is what, and this would really this would be a change of tune on the island, because this is what, Andrew Messick, previous Ironman CEO, came on this podcast and said, we asked for Saturday. We asked for a Saturday in September and a Saturday in October. We asked for Thursday, Saturday. I mean, they did every combo to try and make it happen twice, and they couldn't. Look, if this is true, right? If it goes to Kona in 25, I mean, we're counting down the days for this announcement then, right? So
yeah,
we know that Ironman had a board meeting, so it would be coming. It would have to be coming quick, because every day that goes by, it creates a secondary headache that they weren't planning on happening. So now people have got accommodation booked in Nice. A lot of this is, it's refundable but not refundable type of thing. And so it causes a lot of second order headaches. So to think that it's going to switch, I have a really hard time believing. Mark, do you think that it's going to switch?
I'm almost believing it will, because I just think it makes sense for them to get back to it as soon as possible if they have abandoned this idea of Nice, which I believe they have long term. So why not rip the bandage off and get it done as soon as possible? Yes, people have qualified. I mean, as early as, when did I do Tallinn? That was
End
Nice.
of July.
That was like
end of July.
End of July. People have been qualifying for them. You've got to be pretty keen to have booked everything already for Nice. There'll be a few. Most of those, like you said, will be refundable. So you're probably going to upset a relatively small amount of people, because even some that have booked it would probably rather go to Kona and they'd happily take the hit.
Okay, so then the question is, let's pretend we're Scott DeRue's advisors, and he says, "Hey guys, I've got Kona. They're ready to do Saturday in 2025. What do I do?" I know what I would tell
firstly,
them.
we don't have to pretend to be Scott DeRue's advisors. We clearly
We are Scott's advisors.
Okay, so
absolutely.
He listens to the podcast every week. He's smiling now, knowing that we're advising him right now.
Okay, but as
free.
But as members of his team, honorary team, we're telling them, you go to Kona. You go to Kona in 25 if that's going to happen all day long.
I mean, if he's got Saturday, I less believe that. If he's got that, that's gold standard. Yeah. That is absolute gold standard. You have to take it. If it's just one day, they've got some decisions to make about field sizes based on gender and stuff like that. I still think you do it. I still think you upset those 50, 100 people that might have booked some non-refundable accommodation or flights. I think you do it.
Yeah, I do too. And I think we'll save it for a separate pod. In the event that it goes back to one day, both genders, we're going to save that for a separate pod. We'd be here for 2 hours if we start, kind of unpacking what that would look like or could look like. But I'm with you, dude. If they got Saturday, I mean, Messick would be sitting there going, "Why the hell didn't I get that?"
Why didn't I think of that?
And I just want to talk. I want to talk one thing too, just because I was on a different island this week, to give people some context. So I was on the island of Maui this week. And I don't know if it was, I mean, this is coming into a busy season, right? This was getting ready for Thanksgiving. And, the difference in tone on the island of Maui compared to the island of Kona was shocking. So you've got what seemed to be the locals love the tourists there. The island is very different. I don't know that you could ever switch it to Maui logistically, but man, it would be cool to try. And I think that's the other thing that Ironman could play with too, and say, can we put it on a different island? Is that possible? And what does that look like? It was just a thought I had just traveling to a different island this week.
That is a completely different animal. I can't imagine them even thinking to do something like that. Well, you could go back to the OG island.
Yeah, I mean, obviously where Talbot did the 70.3, so they've got a different venue.
Balancing training, life, and traveling the world for races while staying healthy can be hard, and I always do my best to stay on top of things. Prioritizing sleep, nutrition, and recovery is a must, but sometimes you just get sick. With TeleRx, I know I can get my healthcare needs met easily online and straight to my doorstep when I'm in the US to get me back on track as soon as possible.
Let's talk about the guys and gals that got their various Ironman, or their Kona slots and their knee slots today in Cozumel. Walk us through what happened in Cozumel.
Cozumel was a crazy race. So you had basically Martin Van Riel, who just came off of his T100 World Championship, racing on basically a week's notice after a crazy travel. And then you had pretty much the folks that raced in Kona that wanted to bag an early season slot for world champs. You had Chris Leiferman, Leon Chevalier, Michael Weiss, Cam Werf, kind of the list goes on. And then you had quite a bit of, I would say, maybe unproven or folks that have been focusing on different things, trying to come up and try their hand at an Ironman. This race is very unique and different from a standpoint of like it's on its own little island in Mexico, and the travel to get there is not exactly easy. And then the race itself, it's a downriver swim with a current. The current's insane. They swam insanely fast, like usual. Martin swam a 39:48 for an Ironman. So pretty
I mean, it's just Cozumel,
amazing.
right?
Yeah, I mean it's Cozumel. Like people will be like, "Oh, did they shorten the swim?" No, this is not a shortened swim. It's a legitimate swim. It's a legitimate 3.8 kilometers or whatever. And Martin had an
Body
amazing
surfing.
day. Yeah, exactly.
So I just got the gossip direct,
Okay.
by the way, so we can get into that.
Cool.
So on the bike, it was just like a smash fest like normal, right? Martin
Yep.
Van Riel sort of stayed near the front of the race. There was a good group at the front with absolute hitter riders. I mean, back in the day, Bart Aernouts was considered an Uber biker before they all came along. And obviously Leon Chevalier's bike split, as you would expect, just truly outrageous. Along with Bart Aernouts, they both just rode brilliantly, but there wasn't those gaps out the swim that you would normally expect. But coming into transition, Martin Van Riel was with Bart Aernouts, etc. Bart Aernouts overtook Martin Van Riel. Martin looked left and then looked back and saw like those raised reflectors in the road. Maybe he'd swerved slightly. He hit one of those, lost control. Obviously, hands popped off the bars, and he mounted the pavement or crashed into the side of the road, and he hit a young girl. So she wasn't on the course. He then stayed. He was pretty banged up himself, but so was she. I believe she's fine, but she had to get taken away in an ambulance. So he stayed with her until she was sorted and gone. And then at that point, the police arrived, and they then wanted him to stay to give statements. And Ironman were arguing with the police like he's a professional. So only 10 minutes have gone by at this point. So he would still have won the race and qualified, presumably. But then he was held up for another 10 minutes talking to the police and stuff like that. And then he got let go about 20 minutes he'd been held there. He then ran the fastest run split of the day, I believe,
Correct.
to get himself up to 7th, to just miss out on qualifying. But then Martin had to go to hospital because his crash was bad enough that he ran with cuts that then needed stitches. So he's gone and got stitches in hospital after running a marathon in the heat.
Jeez.
Leon Chevalier, so the podium then was Bart Aernouts, his first win since 2018. Chris Leiferman, loved the guy, good race, good run. Leon Chevalier, Giovanni, the Italian guy, and then Suija,
Dominic
German
Suija.
athlete, is that? Yeah.
Yeah, those are
And
your
then,
5 KQs.
yeah, they're the 5 to qualify. Mickey Weiss missed it, and then Martin Van Riel.
And then Cam
So
Werf
that's the
also missed it.
situation.
Very first drafting penalty ever. So
Yeah, I mean,
just got a voice note from Cam basically explaining the whole situation of what happened. He like looked up and all of a sudden he was just in a bad situation, had a 5-minute drafting penalty,
And
which
normally, I think we just want to set the tone here a little bit. Normally, this race was seen as like a borderline vacation race because a lot of people were coming here to validate. this race had a renewed significance and importance because you want to come here as early as possible because everyone needs to qualify now, right? It's imperative. And so they had five knee slots available. And if, this is what we're going to get into now. But if you were Martin Van Riel, your 2025 season started this morning in Cozumel because you wanted to get a knee slot done and dusted for 25. You wanted to do the T100 series, full focus on that with a special star around of importance for Nice next year to really think about that. And so now if Ironman doesn't, honor the situation of what happened and give him a Nice slot, his 2025 season, now you've got to really start making some decisions, right? And you could see a world where Martin could have really, I guess, run the table at the T100 next year. And now if he's got to put an Ironman in there, it just becomes a little bit harder, right? And so that's not to say it can't be done. Other athletes are going to be in this situation. But what Martin was trying to do was free himself of an Ironman next year in order to smash the T100 series. So, Mark, talk to us about the precedent for this. Talk to us about, have they done it before, and what should they do for Martin?
So I just finished listening to the voice note from Martin's manager, Bram, top bloke. The young lady's fine, and Martin saw her at the end. She's happy. He's super relieved because he hit her when he first started coming off at like 50k an hour. She's fine. He gave her a t-shirt. They're all, it sounds like a very, very fortunate and good ending to what could have been a really horrible situation. Obviously, running a marathon stressed as hell like that, he's a genuinely really caring bloke. He would never have probably even started if he didn't think she was going to be fine. There is precedent for this. This has happened several times before. So the rules allow it because it says, due to extraordinary circumstances, Ironman may, in its sole discretion, elect to offer special invitations to participation in the 2025 championship race. So absolutely they could choose to do it. There's been incidences in the past where, for instance, Laura Sedal was racing in Brazil. She had a crash mid-race. She doesn't actually remember how it happened. So we presume external circumstances. It's always been framed as there was a car involved. And they let her have a slot. So they've done this sort of thing in the past. When Kat had her horrific accident, she said, I'm going to try and qualify. And they said to her, well, if you don't, we'll review this. Because it's pretty amazing. You got destroyed by a car a week before the Ironman World Champs. If you can only get back to fitness in like August next year, but you still want to race Kona again, we'll review it and we'll probably give you a slot. So they have got precedent for this. Martin's crash initially is his fault by the sounds of it, give or take. But then his hold-up isn't his fault. I don't necessarily think his hold-up's wrong. Like, different countries have different police issues, and you don't want to let a guy go if he might be culpable of something really bad. So I'm not really going to lay into the police or even Ironman. But the hold-up isn't his fault. Everything we know about Martin and the way he ran suggests that if he hadn't been held up, he would easily have qualified, potentially have won the race. So I guess then it comes down to personal judgment, and Ironman will make a call on this. Do you give Martin Van Riel a slot? I personally would, because I think he did everything he could after that point. He hung around waiting for the ambulance for the young lady. And when it was all clear, it was like, right, I'm going to crack on. He does the whole run with gashes needing stitches, shows Ironman spirit, all that stuff. I think I would give it to him. But it's their decision.
Yeah, it seems.
What would you boys do?
No, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer. Obviously I'm just picturing this whole scenario in my mind. You could, if you wanted to argue for Martin's side of the case, you could say, look, like, there should have been some fencing a little bit further back, right? And I could picture these races in Mexico, for instance, where there are people just right up on the course.
Yeah, it's insane.
And so I can think, like, look, like, yes, Martin has the ownership around. He's the one that hit the reflector and it caused this, but there wasn't necessarily. Again, I go back to citing the UCI. There's very clear boundaries of when there has to be finish barriers and when they have to begin, right? and they do this for course safety for both the athletes and the fans. This is one of those. This is an example of such that, this is why there should be barriers, 200 or 300.
I don't actually know, Pat, exactly how close to transition it was.
No.
Let's.
Yeah, I'm just picturing, if he was getting ready to go into T2, he's all,
Yeah.
There's also like a very technical section, like right as you're about to get off the bike, that is like kind of sketch. And like Talbot and I saw people crash right in front of us, like when we did the race in Ironman Cozumel, and it's like it's a little nuts.
Yeah, look, I think he honored the race. He honored the performance that he was going to do. He honored the fact that like he was going to stay there and make sure that everything was fine. The police got what they needed. This is a circumstance that that is in line with the wording of their rules. So, what do we know about?
Yeah.
What do we know about Cam's penalty?
You guys want to listen to it? I can't promise how good the audio is going to be, but I think it'll be pretty good. You ready?
Yeah.
This drafting penalty. We were just about to catch Martin, and Leon had come past, and I guess I was just a bit sloppy. I wasn't concentrating and didn't drift back enough, and next thing there was a fucking blue card in my face. Obviously, it's a bit uncharacteristic for me. So anyway, pretty bummed because I sort of finally got my mojo back, was finally getting to the front of the race, was all G'd up, and then 5 minutes standing there, I think the fatigue of the year kind of hit me like a fucking freight train. I got back on and tried to chase, but then completely blew my wad and lost another 5 minutes. I wanted to quit, but saw Wyatt as I got off the bike and he was yelling. I thought, fuck it, I got to finish better than I hate DNFing. And just trotted through. Anyway, bit of a bummer, but pretty happy with where I'm at, to be honest. And a lot of confidence from finally getting the bike back to that level. Get the swim right now, and pretty excited for next year. Bring it on. Awesome stuff from Bart, though. The old dog. The old dogs are fighting back. It's awesome. It's catching me.
Yeah. So good.
I love it.
Thanks for that, Cam.
Yeah. And he
owns it.
Yeah.
He just owns it. My fault. It's uncharacteristic. And I think we all know if you race as many times as Cam has, you're going to get a drafting penalty at some point. It's just part of the sport. But the old dog, Bart Earnouts. We shouldn't, there's a lot of drama, but, he's podiumed at Kona in the past. He used to be an Uber biker. He's bagged himself a win early qualification. Good for you, Bart.
It just demonstrates to me the importance around, there's the experience that you have in this sport carries on, and you see it in the Ironman distance time and time again. And Bart was just another example of this. So hats off to him. Again, you listen to Cam's voice note, you can hear how bummed he is, not about the penalty, but I'm hearing, it's like, gosh, I just did one of these a month ago. I took my family to Cozumel. I would have loved to have qualified for Nice and got that out of the way. And it complicates. I don't know what his plans are next year for if he's going to be on Ineos again. It just adds another layer to the 2025 planning. So, Mark, what did we miss in the women's race?
Not much. Anne Reichman did what we expected. She's the best athlete in that field. She won by 6 minutes and 15 seconds, very unchallenged across really the whole race. It went 5 deep qualification in the women's race, which goes back 23 minutes to your qualification. We saw some huge ones, like Alpha and Rosie Wild bagged one in Lanzarote like an hour back. It can just sometimes happen in the women's field. The girl in second is an Austrian athlete, Lisa Pertera. Again, a solid performance all round. No one ran sub-3 hour marathons. Justine Mayhew got third. Julie Lamello, the French girl that's been quite active this year. This must be at least her third Ironman this year. Got fourth. And then Corriadori, the Italian lady who's been around a long time, got fifth. So, nothing too exciting in the women's race, but nice to see Anne Reichman just do her job. She's one of these that's not one of the big names, but she's much better than the rest that aren't, if that makes sense. So it's what we expected.
All right. Look, if you're an avid listener of the show, you'll know that at the end of last week we said we were going to take this 2 or 3 week break, right? Because we said there was no races. The momentum started to build for Cozumel. We said, guys, we got to come on and we got to do a pod about this. We realized at the start of today's show, we've got some big 70.3s next week as well. So, Kyle, help get our listeners. We're gonna be next
This is
week
a banger. Like, this is a banger. This is a gold
Yeah.
tier. Gold tier 70.3.
So we're gonna have and this is gonna be on. Are they both on December 1st? Or are they on the?
No. This one's on Friday in the U.S., so the 29th of November.
That's
this
not a
is
banger. I
70.3
thought
Bahrain.
you meant Western Australia.
No, I'm talking about 70 point. Both these are gold tier races. That's what I'm saying.
But Western Australia can shape the Ironman series. Someone could win 200 grand here, and you want to talk about?
If you
want to mention Morgan Pearson in some shitty 70 go on then, Carl.
No,
70.3 Bahrain is a gold tier race. We talk about gold tier races here. We got Caroline Pohl on the women's side, Marlene de Boer. You also have Jess Learmonth, Sarah Svensk, and you go a little bit further down this list. You got some short course athletes coming across. Natalie Van Coverden, Kate Waugh, Alicia Beto, and Georgia Taylor Brown on the women's side.
That
Great
is a banger.
race.
All right.
Great race.
Like that outright banger. Caroline Pohl on form 70.3 this year, taking scalps left, right, and centre. Jess Learmonth an all-rounder that everyone
ride
loves.
her bike like no one's business and swim.
Yeah,
like no one's business.
You've got Georgia Taylor Brown, who back in the day was, Alistair Brownlee's pick of all the girls. If she could go to 70.3 and make it look easy, it'd be Georgia. Kate Waugh, just off the back of a win in Thailand.
Yeah.
It's a banger. Natalie Van Couveren, no idea what she's going to be like.
She'll race great. On the men's side, Yuri Cullen, Matthias Margier, Casper Stepniak, James Teagle, Jack Hutchins. You go further down this list, and then you got the short course athletes. You got Henry Schumann, Max Stapley. Max Newman's on this list. Not sure how he'll go at 70.3. I think he's having surgery, so
Bahrain. So don't forget, some of these names are Bahrain athletes. So Georgia, Kate Waugh, Henry Schumann, Max Stapley. They are all Bahrain, and obviously quite a few of the Bahrain big names are off to 70.3 worlds, so they've been told they don't have to go, like Hayden Wild, Kat, etc. Just for some context.
Last two names: Vincent Louis and Miguel Hidalgo.
Oof, that's a banger as well.
It's insane. Insane.
Okay, so I don't want to go into this too much for this race. I think what we should do is we probably end up doing a post-mortem on the results, right? Because there's going to be some curveballs. There's going to be some surprises. But what we're saying is keep an eye on 70.3 Bahrain this weekend, because what has typically been I dare say like an end-of-season boring race, I think that this will be an anything but. In this case.
I mean, this is like top shelf 70.3 in my opinion. Like this is a 70.3 Oceanside at the end of the year.
I can't tell you how much the staff at Bahrain need a win there as well. One or the other, male or female, they just need it. And the women have kind of carried them through for a few years because Martin turned up and just absolutely smoked it. Kat won it, and then Holly Lawrence has done a job for them, and Daniela's done a job for them. Like they, in front of the Prince, it's really important for them. So if they go and get scalped by a Natalie Van Couveren or a Caroline Pohl and say Yuri Cullen, they want this bad.
Yeah, they need it huge for them.
So what? I mean, we talked about this. We're going to transition now to Western Australia.
Can we guess a win? Can we just guess a win? We won't do the whole podium. Yeah. Just guess who you think's going to win.
I'm going to go Caroline Pohl and Vincent Louis.
I'm going Kate Waugh and Vince.
I'm going Georgia Taylor. Yeah. I'm going Georgia Taylor Brown and Max Stapley or Yuri Cullen. Maybe. Whoa. Yuri Cullen really needs a win. I feel like he deserves one. I'm going to go.
See, Max is my boy, but when I was messaging with him earlier after he raced in Thailand, he's like, dude, this has been an insane season. So that's why I was like, I want to pick Max, but at the same time, I'm like, I know the fatigue that's starting to probably set in. So.
Yeah, I'm going to go Georgia gets it done for Bahrain, and then Caroline Pohl gets run down, and I'm going to take Yuri.
Man.
Okay, we talked about Western Australia a few weeks ago and the importance that it was going to have if Patrick Lang decided to do it or not. Based on Patrick Lang's Instagram feed, I don't think he's going to Western Australia. But Mark, you would
Definitely
know.
not.
So
Definitely not.
Wow. Okay.
He's done for the year, and he's just going to see where it falls out.
So, Mark, now you're going to have to take us back. What does this mean for the men's Ironman Pro Series? Because now it's wide open again.
Yeah. Now I'm just trying to pull it up. Is Matthew Marquardt doing it? I don't know. No, he's not. So the big two doing it for the Pro Series is Christian Hogenhaug and Gregory Barnaby. Both of them can knock out a solid 70.3. I think Gregory Barnaby maybe is a little bit better at it, but it depends on how the race shakes out. They basically, if they score well here, very well here, it could take us into an amazing. If they score well here, they will go ahead of Patrick Lang, I think. So if that happens, it takes us into a showdown where it could be Matthew Marquardt, Gregory Barnaby, Christian Hogenhaug, essentially whoever finishes first. It could get that close. Whoever finishes first in Taupo will win, which would be really cool because that would then be a real race within a race. So they're the big three for the series. There are some others, but they have to do a bit more work and they have to make some jumps, etc. So on the men's side, it's there's lots of Callan in there and some others, but just watch the race for Barnaby, Hogenhaug, how far back they do, because there is 200 grand on the line for them at a very small 70.3 in Western Australia.
Okay, and then what's happening in the women's field?
Yeah, so you've got some interesting ones there in that Maya Starge is placed fairly well overall anyway. And then you have Lottie Wilms and Hannah Berry, who both have scores they can pick up. Now, it's slightly less interesting than women because they've got a lot of work to do to get to Jackie Herring and Kat in particular, who is a score short. But those ladies, those three particularly, are very close to having a top three. And, don't forget, the Ironman series, the pays deep. Like, for these ladies who are not on these huge contracts, Lottie Wilms, Maya Starges, etc., they are going to be, they can move themselves up into third overall, which is a whole lot of money. So again, it's interesting. Like, what the ones that haven't, it's so late though that you can't afford to go there if you're Lottie Wilms, Hannah Berry, and not finish or put a score down. Maya's done enough races already, so she's only trying to improve. Those ladies need this score. So again, it becomes quite interesting, I think.
And then do you guys want to predict wins for this one?
No, not really, because I don't think it'll actually come from the people that. I mean, maybe in the women's side.
Let me just go through the start list real quick. For the names that you didn't mention: Els Visser, Marta Sanchez, Grace Deck, and then you go further down this list. You got Penny Slater, Rebecca Clark, and then some short course athletes that are coming across: Rochelle Hill, who's Australia's next hope and an Olympian; Charlotte McShane, who has been a journeywoman in short course that is now doing a 70.3. And then you also have Abigail White coming across. So those are the women's side.
Yeah. I'm going to take just straight away. I'm going to take Grace Tech
for the win.
Yeah. She's just really good in these kind of slightly lower tier races. She rides well now. She runs brilliantly.
I'm going Chloe Hartnett. Or you want me to tell you who to pick, Pat?
I was going to pick. It's Rochelle, isn't it? Rochelle Hill. Yeah, that's.
I was going to go Valerie, the Belgian.
I'm going to say I'm going to stick with Rochelle, and then I'm going to say on the men's side, we had Gregory Barnaby, right? I just think it's going to be one of these guys with extra fire for the series. Cool.
And then on the men's side, Greg Barnaby, Cam Worth's not doing this race. Big Mike Phillips, Anthony Costas, Matt Burton, who will probably have the fastest bike split, Mark Dubrick, Robert Callan, Kurt McDonald, he's my pick to win, Tim Van Berkel, and then you go further down this list. I can't believe you didn't pick your boy Jake Birtwistle, Pat. And then you keep going down, Fraser Walsh, Kenji Neener, Kurt Wesley, Jamie Riddle.
That'll be, again...
What an interesting... This is going to be a race that we'll have close eyes on. I mean... Race Ranger will be there, luckily. So a lot of these short course athletes, they won't be able to will surf as much as they think they will.
So let's spend a little bit of time unpacking these races next weekend. But I think we're blessed.
Oh, we ain't pod next weekend.
What? I thought we got to do one more.
Oh man, I thought we were taking a break.
No, not with races. Not
If
with
something,
races like this.
if it's real good, we'll pod.
Yeah.
If there's drama, if not,
Fair.
we won't.
Fair.
Yeah,
All right.
similar to what happened this week. So
the number one gap is education. So really educating the masses on how to fuel for performance. This is a performance line. The issue that we were running into and why we said let's create our own is because not too many products out there where it has everything we specifically want for an athlete to take. We know that works for athletes just based on the science that is out there. So the fact that we can combine all the knowledge that we've taken from listening to the sports scientists out there and the latest research, and we're up to date with that, I feel like we're in the forefront of nutrition for our athletes and for those around.
So our pod is cooling off, but one thing that is not cooling off are our hot takes. I looked at this week's hot takes and they are amazing. So maybe I'll just bring out the first one and we'll just go from there, see what happens. T100 is short course.
Agree.
Okay.
agree.
Now I'm gonna give you guys that. Yes, is it skewing short course dominant? Sure. But let's just take a look at my boy Magnus for a second. How would Magnus do at a World Series race?
He'd get destroyed.
Not very good.
Now he's
Because that's the drafting.
Right, but he's a T100 athlete that, is very dominant. He's won a T100 race. He's podiumed at others. He would have been without his mechanical. He would have podiumed overall in the series realistically. But an athlete that, I'm not knocking on him, but he would struggle if he went to a World Series race. So we got to probably look at these a little more case by case. But is it certainly, does it help those athletes? Yes, that are short course coming up. But again, we'll even use Kat as an example. She's very dominant in the T100 series and doesn't have a short course background. Again,
but my argument there would be that she would be more dominant if it was an hour longer.
T200.
2 hours. Yeah, exactly. Same for Magnus.
Sure.
So look at the results. Look at London. I was trying to think of a fairly fast course. That was a 3 hour, 10-minute race for the men.
Yep.
That's not long course.
It's just, and then the dynamic. It weights the swim more than a 70.3. It detracts from the bike and the run more than a 70.3. The athletes are able to come across. I'm not knocking. I don't have a problem with it not being long course. It's its own thing. It's just not long course.
Long curious, I guess is what it
is.
It's middle distance. You could say maybe we'll meet in the middle. We'll say it's a middle distance.
Look, I want to be clear though. Like, this is not an easy thing for short course athletes that they can all of a sudden just bump into it and be dominant. Like, you got to spend a lot of time. The discipline of spending time honing the position on the bike, the discipline of being able to do 80K on the pedals, is something that's going to take real work. And I think that, you have, like, we'll use an athlete like Flora Duffy, for instance. She's getting really good at this sport because she had 15 years of discipline in the trade and the craft of triathlon. And that can go over very easily, right? And I just think that in this, it's hard for me to believe that she would be worse if it was an hour longer discipline. That's what I have a hard time accepting. Like, are the results going to change that much if we added an hour to it? And I don't necessarily think that they would.
Yeah, but they kind of, like, I guess she didn't really try, but she's done 70.3s and been destroyed at them. So have others. But also, it we're not just taking your average short course athlete, putting them in and watching them succeed. We're taking the very best,
The best.
short
The
course
best.
athletes, putting them in, and they are sometimes succeeding. So again, good argument.
Yep. So I guess this is just going to be one of those fun things for us to talk and debate. And I don't think we're going to have, in 4 years, we might have a little more clear direction on this. But I think that, again, some of this is because this is such a new discipline and distance. And in 4 years, we might be in a different place where it doesn't matter if it's short course, medium course, long course, whatever we want to call it. Like, this is just the T100 distance. And there's going to be athletes that are great at it and that want to be great at it. And I think I think what we're going to see in 2025, and we saw it. I was shocked when Talbot said last week that Christian and Gustav weren't going to do the T100 series, and then they basically made that public this week on their on the Norwegian Method podcast.
That's a hot take in itself, right?
Yeah. I mean, so. I think that what we're going to see is we're going to start to see a clear bifurcation between the athletes that choose to go the Ironman distance route, the 140.6, versus those that are going to make a name and stay at the T100 level. And I think there will be a few that can dance in between, but I think what we're going to see is we're going to start to just see a larger distance between those two groups of athletes.
So, and a bit of so when the T100 first announced their contracts, one agent approached T100 about two of his athletes and said they are worth more than everyone else. We will not sign if it's this standardized contract. And we know who we're talking about now. I wonder whether they've kind of made their bed and they have to lie in it a bit, or do they just really
you think they went back to him again? So like they did it this year, they do it again.
Maybe, but also maybe they just don't now want to come groveling back to it. But also, like Ironman series is really good money. They both need to race to qualify, so they have to do one already to qualify for the World Champs, which the World Champs is what they've said they really want to do, Ironman World Champs. So then it's just one more Ironman race, a couple of 70.3s, one of them presumably being Worlds. They're probably looking at this like thinking, well, actually, I only need to do one more Ironman or one more 70.3, and I'm up for the Ironman series, versus committing to still doing all the rest plus T100. So I could see it from a logic point that it's the least racing for them for the most exposure.
And this will
you want to do 5 races or do you want to do 10 races? You make your decision.
That's just walked in 12, 13, whatever.
This brings us to our second hot take. T100 championship is more prestigious than Kona.
That was a listener submission.
Shit.
Listener submission.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, Laura Philipp and Patrick Langer are on German national TV up for national awards. They have months of commitments, media signing, the money, the bike contracts that go with it. Maybe you enjoy T100 and you see it and you think it's more prestigious, but there's just no way right now. Not yet.
Yeah.
I'll make it very obvious. You ready? Your T100 world champion just decided that he wanted to race on 1 week's notice to qualify for the Ironman World Championship.
Yes. Yes. There you go.
If you ask the women T100 world champion, Taylor Nebb, would you rather win this again next year or would you rather win Kona? More than likely, her answer is going to be Kona.
Absolutely. There was another one. So I'm just going to pull him up. How many followers does Martin Van Riel have on social media? Martin Van Riel, where are you? So Sam Laidlow was saying he picked up, after he won Nice, he picked up 28,000 followers basically in the next 48 hours. Martin Van Riel has 70 odd total at the moment. That doesn't really tell us anything because when did he get those? But I doubt they were now. But you pick up 28,000 followers on social for one race versus a whole year's work. I think it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
Easy.
It's and I don't know that it will always stay that way, but currently, right now, and for what I can forecast for the next 2 or 3 years, the Ironman World Championships, the single day. Now, what might be making a little bit of a dent is the T100 World Championship may be making a a little bit of a mark on the 70.3 world champion, right? And they might be making some inroads on the importance level there. And
I'd bite on that. I'd bite on that. That 70.3 worlds is less prestigious than T100 now at this point.
So, I think that'll be the one that I want to see, where that one goes. But
Yeah. For the champion, for the individual win, 70.3 world champion or T100 champion, I will bite on. But the 70.3 worlds is still one hell of a big field. And now you add into it that it's also still part of the Ironman series and kind of culminates that. So you sort of get a bit of both. It's still not as far removed, I think, as T100 would like. But I could see that next year being even more so.
Next year, they're a week apart. So next year, it'll be very interesting.
Are they a week apart?
They're a week apart.
Have we got the date for Dubai?
Yeah. Yeah, it's in the spreadsheet. So,
but at least they're relatively close.
You give me 2 seconds, I'll tell you.
Okay, so as Kyle's looking that up on the spreadsheet, I want to go back a little bit, and I want to give our third and final hot take to. We talked about Christian and Gustav saying they're going to forego the T100 series. What other surprises? Who's going to forego the T100 series next year that either has a contract or we think will get a contract?
You ready? T100 Dubai Grand Final is going to be November 15th, unless they add another race to be the Grand Final. But as of right now, November 15th is the Grand Final.
And Marbella.
November 8th, a week prior, is 70.3 World Championship.
In Marbella.
Perfect.
All right,
kind of glad it's that way around.
Yeah, no kidding. Mark, who's going to sit out? Who's going to get offered a contract that sits it out? I mean, you know a few and you can't tell us, so you can't.
I know a couple,
don't say that. But I mean, you're saying there's some surprises.
I think if you were to guess at them, you would get it right. So if they gave you a number of how many, I don't know them all. It's not many. But if you were to guess at them, I think you would get it right. But not everyone in that top 10 on both sides is going to take it.
Okay, so then just Kyle, because I re-listened to last week's show, and what I'm curious about is, so they have to roll down. So if of the 10 contracted athletes.
What I'm most interested about is Alistair Brownlee was 5th place. Do they, now that he's retired, do they roll that down to 11th place and offer that to Sam Laidlow?
Exactly
or roll it, or if Sam Laidlow declines it, you roll it down one more to Mika Newt, and he will definitely say yes.
So where are they going to roll that down from? Are they going to roll that down from the series rankings? Or are they going to go down the world rankings and they're going to get to 16 via the world rankings and then the 4 hot shots?
So it's 10 contract, 6 addition.
No, I understand that. But if
you're saying hypothetically, like, where are they going to pull those 6 from?
Well, now it's 7 on the men's side, right? So
yeah.
Alistair's gone. So now they got to add 7. But are they taking Alistair's slot from a roll down of the series rankings, or are they taking that and putting it over in the world rankings and then rolling it down?
So the Alistair one's interesting because I think if they rolled it to 11th place would say no. So then, if they roll it to 12th, it's Mika Newt.
And he says yes.
He would say yes. So I don't know.
What should they do? What should they do on the roll down?
I would do it almost like a hybrid. I would maybe pick like 1 or 2 people. So I'd roll it to maybe 2 people on the T100 series. So you could go down 14th place, just Nisha. Well, I think Jason West might say yes, but he raced pretty bad this year. I would just go straight over to the world ranking, to be honest with you.
But Mark, there's no rules on this right now. Is there protocol?
No, and it would be an obvious rule to put in next year, wouldn't it? It could literally just word like, should a top 10 athlete decline a contract, it will roll down as far as 15th place in the T100 standing, and you can put a cap on it. Because then you don't pick up someone you don't really want by an automatic rule, but it makes it clear, something like that.
So
yeah, like this could roll down, and then like if it rolled to 16th, Aaron could say yes, or if it rolled to 18th, Rudy Von Berg could say yes. But 19th is Yella Geens, he would definitely say yes.
All right, but
so it's a hard deal.
But my question still isn't answered here. So we don't know if they're gonna get to 6. Are they gonna get to 16 through the world ranking?
I don't think we know.
We don't know. So like, is there a world where they could go, okay, we had 8 of the top 10 from the series rankings opt in. Then we pulled the next 6 from the world rankings. So now we're at 14, and now we get the 6 hot shots that we want.
I would pull it from hot
Yeah.
shots. That's what
think
I would
that's
do.
what
I
I
would
do.
take it out of, if they say no to the contract, I'd throw it all the way into the hot shots and then go get your Lionel Sanders of the world, etc.
Yeah, your promotional high draw
Yep.
athletes. It just gives them more of what they want, I think.
Because
So
Lionel's
that's what I
ranked
would
like
do if I was
30th in
them.
the world right now. But can I tell you something? You would be foolish from the fan bases and things like that. Like the media bumps that you get from Lionel Sanders doing a race versus anyone else is absolutely insane. The fan base that he
Lionel
brings.
would fucking hate it though. Like I know he's considering it, but 8 different races in 8 different locations, he'd lose his mind. He has to travel anywhere.
What
and
time
it's the
zone are we
biggest
on?
thing. Yeah, I mean, you just only have to watch his YouTube to know that. I mean, you hop into Marbella and then off to Dubai, and then we're going to send you to the south of France and come over to London and get the ring road round. It's 3 hours in a taxi. Like,
Okay.
sorry,
Where's the closest Taco Bell?
So so then, all right. So I think I've got some clarity on what I think they're going to do there. What would happen if, in the case of what you talked about with Christian and Gustav, what if they paid those athletes more, but they actually just made everyone's contract visible?
The contracts are supposed to be visible all along. We should push for that to become visible by
They
the end
have
of the
been
year.
honest about the contracts. All the athletes pretty much know what every other athlete makes, and I think that's really important for the series to work and people to sign it.
Transparency.
And I don't know. I don't think they have to make it public to Joe Blogs. I don't know why you would. The money's really good. The athletes all know what everyone else is getting. They've been honest about it. There's no backdoor stuff.
Yep.
It's just fun to know. Like, it's fun to know that Patrick Mahomes is on a $500 million contract. Like, it's fun to know that these athletes are getting paid this much money. So I think it's interesting, and they do it in any other sport, like soccer, football, etc. American football, regular football.
Yeah, true. Well, I can tell you it's not 500 million.
I would hope
It's
not.
just like a little bit.
I would
less
hope
than that.
not.
Look, the other thing that I was really encouraged about when I saw the footage from the notes from Dubai was that, the initial funder of the T100 of the PTO, Mike Moritz, was in Dubai, and it looked to be working hard there. So that to me signals his investment in the series, and I think that signals some long-term health of the series. Yeah, Mark?
I just had a good point flash to mind completely unprompted. We actually don't know what the contract offers are for 2025. I was sort of assuming they were just the same.
Right.
So we actually don't know exactly what 25 looks like, but I imagine it's going to be fairly similar.
Yep. My point was that
it's healthy right now.
Yeah, it's healthy right now, and I think that if they were to, it's clear that like the athletes that they're leaning into, they're working them really hard. And so I just could say they could make a case, and they could say, yeah, we can pay Christian and Gustav more. We're going to tell everybody that we are paying them more. And you know what? They're actually come to a race, and you want to follow them for a day. They're working a lot harder than 8th through 20th in the field combined Monday to Friday.
Honestly, they're just not going to do it. Chris Commode, he will not do it.
Yeah,
and I like that.
I do too. I just think that at some point, I think that goes back to what I was teasing out with you, Mark. There's going to be a few more that say no this year, and that's going to surprise them. And I think what they're going to, again, and then that followed up my second point, where they're going to roll down, because if I'm Sam, I go, that's not a problem. My inbox is filled with hot shots that are going to do it for a fraction of the price. We've got no with dynamite talent for this series. And I think that's where they got to go. So,
yeah.
Mark,
I have one last hot take.
Yeah.
If I was the T100, there is a race in Australia that happens November 6th, 26th, end of November every year. That is 100K distance in Hervey Bay. I would end my series there. I would purchase that race, and I would end my series there. And that would be my Australian location. and it would make everyone happy. The amount of people that would be there would trump the amount of people that were at Dubai tenfold. If the decision seems kind of easy, the only thing that it doesn't have that I think that they want is the iconic location, right? It seems that they may want the Sydney, Melbourne market rather than something like Hervey Bay that's had 100K distance there the last few years. So that's just my
really hope they
one
don't.
last hot take.
It's just such a long way for everyone but the Australians to end your year. This is a kick, honestly. Finishing in New Zealand in bloody December is an absolute graft.
Whoa.
But it makes sense. Right, can I just champion
monologue
something?
time.
Alistair Brownlee announced his retirement this week. Came as a surprise because actually it looked like he just kind of got it clicked again. He was really good in Dubai. But he knew the time was done. Alistair Brownlee, in my opinion, is the single greatest one-day racer. I know Kyle agrees. I think across short course, I think he's the greatest of all time. I think as well, on top of that, the likes of Jan Frodeno, when presented with the GOAT argument, which he hates, point out that is it just about longevity or is it about how damn good you were at the time? And Alistair Brownlee did stuff for the sport and in the sport that no one else has done. For a period, triathlon was a household sport almost in the UK because of him and his brother. One of the most iconic triathlon videos of all time that Johnny will never let down is him getting carried across the line. He changed the way short course racing happens. They used to trundle round, and then Alistair Brownlee turned up as a junior and just spanked it out of T1, and everyone was like, oh my God, there's this triathlon. And the sport changed, and the women's sport has followed suit. Me personally, and I'll let Kyle and Pat talk on this, he really improved triathlon in my enjoyment of the sport for the last 10 years. So I think all of the fans of triathlon, whether you are an Alistair fan or not, should be grateful for what he's done, and I certainly am. So thanks for the entertainment and the ride, Alistair, on the way.
Yeah, I'm blessed. My favorite Alistair story was I'm lucky that I got to see him race in his prime in person on, a bunch of different times throughout the years. But I remember in 2016, he came down to the Gold Coast and he got, it might have been like 40th place at the World Series there. And Gwen and I are watching, and she looks at me and she's like, what's going on? And I go, there's your Rio Olympic champion right there. And she looked at me like, what? And I go, he's just starting the year right now. He knows exactly what he needs to do this year. And the performance that he gave in Rio was absolutely tremendous. And so, I was introduced to the sport from my wife, and the first time I saw Alistair race in London, I was just, in awe. And I was like, dude, this is just another level, the way this guy's doing this and the way that he won at home. It was a once in a lifetime achievement. So no, hats off to him. I don't even know if I've actually ever spoken to him, but from afar, I've watched his career, and he can be super, super, super proud of what he's achieved.
I believe that Alistair is one of the most remarkable triathletes that we've ever had in our sport. From drilling the swim, drilling the bike, and then running sub 30-minute 10Ks off the bike before super shoes were even a thought. 100%. Without him, our sport wouldn't be where it is today. We wouldn't have had the Olympic allure that we have with triathlon if it wasn't for him. He's going to more than likely go down as the greatest Olympic triathlete of all time. Him pushing the bike and bullying people on the bike, like, love it or hate it, he is the greatest athlete of all time in short course.
Okay. What a way to finish the show.
So,
I might sit and watch Kitzbühel now. I might watch Kitzbühel back in my pants.
That's one of the greatest races. If you've never seen the Kitzbühel race, go online and search Alistair Brownlee Kitzbühel and watch that entire race. Do yourself a favor, set aside and watch that race. Not only is that one of the most iconic races ever because of the venue, Alistair Brownlee puts on an absolute masterclass. Absolute masterclass.
It's embarrassing.
It looks like the race is only Alistair Brownlee. It is truly remarkable. truly remarkable.
Yeah, it's even better. I was there for that race and I rode up the climb twice that week during the event, and then to see what he did on it was just insane. So it was a one-time only race that they did with that actual course, and it was awesome to be there for it. So yeah, super cool. I think we're gonna sign off. I can't thank our listeners enough for coming on. We're bummed that Talbot wasn't able to make it, but we hope that you guys were able to make it through. I've got George in my office. He's ready for dinner, so we're gonna say goodbye. But yeah, thanks again for listening. If you're new to the show, thanks for jumping on, and share it with your friends if you're an avid listener.